Altazor by Vicente Huidobro, Canto 5. Here begins the unexplored territory, round on account of the eyes that behold it, profound on account of my heart, filled with probable sapphires, sleepwalkers' hands, and aerial burials, eerie as the dream of dwarfs or the branch snapped off in the infinite, the seagull carries it to its young. There is an unpopulated space that must be populated with glances of cracked seeds, with voices sent down from eternity, with nocturnal games and violin aerolites, with the rumble of unruly herds, escaped from the comet that was about to crash. Do you know the miraculous fountain that restores life to the shipwrecked of yesteryear? Do you know the flower called Nun's voice that grows downward and blooms in the depths of the earth? Have you seen the boy who sang sitting on a teardrop? The boy who sang by the side of a sigh, by the whimpers of an inconsolable dog? Have you seen the colors of the colorless rainbow, horribly aged, that comes up from the time of the pharaohs? Fear changes the shape of the flowers that tremble, waiting for the final judgment. One by one, stars shoot from the balcony. The sea is asleep behind a tree with its usual calm, for it knows ever since biblical times on the pole star there is no return. No sailor has ever found the rose of the seas, the rose that holds the memory of its ancestors deep within. Wearying of dream, weary of living in every petal, wind that sinks the rose of the sea, I stand waiting for you at the end of this line. I know where it's hidden. The flower born from the siren sex in the moment of pleasure, when it starts to grow late beneath the sea, and one hears the waves gnashing under the feet of the horizon, I know where it's hidden. Wind with the bee's voice of a pale girl, the pale girl as her own statue, whom I loved in a corner of my life, when I wanted to leap from hope to the sky, and I fell from shipwreck to shipwreck, horizon to horizon. It was then I saw the hidden rose, the one had seen face to face, the one no one had seen face to face. Have you seen that bird from exotic isles, hurled by the tides of the foot of my bed? Have you seen the hypnotic ring that runs from eye to eye, love to love, hate to hate, man to woman, planet to planet? Have you seen there, in the empty sky, the dove threatened by the years, with the eyes of memory, with breasts of silence, sadder than after a shipwreck? Behind the last eagle, the singer sang with a ring in its heart. And he sat on the volcano earth of his strength, before defied by a flower. The athlete wants to be a lighthouse, to be watched by boats, to make them sleep so he can sleep, and coo at the sky like a tree. The athlete has a ring in his throat, and so time passes calmly, for anemones are growing in his brain. Study the orphan stopped in youth, on account of the river that brings little water, on account of the mountains that won't come down. Grow, grow, says the violoncello. I am as I am growing, as the idea of suicide is growing in the pretty flower girl. Grow, little sapphire, more tender than affliction in the eyes of a bird on fire. I will grow. I will grow when the city grows, when the fish have drunk all the seas, The old days are like turtle shells, and there are boats in my memory, and the boats come closer day by day. I hear the dog's bark that turns the world in 3 weeks and is dead on arrival. The heart has broken its moorings on account of the wind, and the boy remains an orphan. If the landscape become a dove, the sea would eat it before nightfall. But the sea is organizing a shipwreck that has its mind on other things. Ship, oh ship, with the short life of a fan, here we laugh at all that, here in the far, far away. The mountain bewitched by a nightingale follows the honey of a poisoned bear. Poor little bear with his bearskin poisoned by the northern lights. Run away from death sitting by the edge of the sea. The mountain and the moontane, with her moon and his mound, her blossomed blossom and his bliss and his blossom, a flower known as sunflower, and a sun called flower sun. The bird can't forget it's a bird, on account of the comet that never comes out of fear of winter or crime. The comet that had ought to have been born from a telescope and a hydrangea. That thought it would see what was seen. Over the singular concert, an aviator kills himself, and the angel, bathing in some piano, turns round again, wrapped in sound, looking for the receiver in peaks where words and rivers spring. Wolves perform miracles in the tracks of night. When the unknown bird clouds over, a sheep grazes on the other side of the moon. If there is a trace of music, no one can stop the circus from expanding in silence. Not the bells of dead stars, nor the snakes that feed on color, nor the pianist who's leaving earth, nor the missionary who's forgotten his name. If the road sits down to rest or soaks itself in the autumn of the constellations, no one will stop it from being fastened to eternity, not the woman powdered with butterflies, nor the orphan tutored by a tulip, nor the zebra trotting through a waltz, nor the guardian of fate. The sky is afraid of the night, and when the sea puts the boats to sleep, when death eats in the corners and the voice of silence is full of vampires, then we light a fire under the oracle to placate fate and feed the miraculous solitude with our own flesh. Then in the cemetery sealed and lovely as an eclipse, the rose breaks its chains and flowers on the other side of death. Night of ancient terrors of night, where is the polar grotto fed with miracles? Where is the delirious mirage of rainbows, eyes, galaxy eyes? The tomb opens, and in its depths we see the sea. Breath catches, and dangling vertigo swells the temples, rush down to the veins. Eyes open wider than their sockets can hold, and a scream scars over the sick void. The tomb opens, and in its depths we see flocks lost on a mountain, a shepherdess with her cape of wind by the side of night. Counts the footprints of God in space, singing to herself. The tomb opens, and in its depths we see a line of icebergs that sparkle in the searchlight of the storm and drift by in silence, a solemn procession of icebergs with torches of light inside their bodies. A tomb opens, and in its depths we see the fall and winter, and the amethyst sky slowly lowers. The tomb opens, and in its depths we see an enormous wind and an enormous wound that grows huge in the pit of the earth. With a rumble of summer and springs, the tomb opens, and in its depths we see a forest of self-fertilizing fairies, each tree topped with an ecstatic bird, and everything inside the unbroken lips of their song. There, one might find the nest of tears that rolls through the sky and cross the zodiac from sign to sign. The tomb opens, and in its depths we see the bubbling nebula blinking, and off, and on, and on, and off. An area light goes by without answering anyone. And festive lights dance across the endless guillotine, where the bloody heads of stars give off a halo that grows forever. The tomb opens, and a wave leaps out. The shadow of the universe splashes itself, and everything living on bank or in shadow, the tomb opens, a planetary sigh of escapes, and there are broken massive whirlpools of shipwrecks, and bells of the current stars on their tolls, and the hurricanes whistling chase through the infinite across the flooding rivers. The tomb opens, and a bouquet of flowers and hair shirts leaps out. The impenetrable bonfire grows, and a smell of passion invades the globe. The sun paces the last corner where it hides, and the magic forest is born. The tomb opens, and in its depths we see the sea. There's a song of 1,000 boats that goes off, while heaps of fish slowly petrify. How long has that finger of silence dominated the endless insomnia that rules the spheres? Everywhere it's time to sleep, and dreams pull man from the earth. We celebrate the dawn with windows. We celebrate the dawn with hats. Terror flies from the sky. The hills throw birds in our faces. Dawn rises with the hope of aeroplanes. Under the vault that has filtered the light of so many centuries, love and patience in the central column, we rub our hands and laugh. We wash our hands and play along. The horizon's a bison. The ocean, devotion, heavy, heaven, a hanky. The page a plague. A horizon filled with the ocean blew its nose on the heavens after the 7 pages of Egypt. The bison sails devotion like a comet across the hankies full of plagues. The reason of day is not the reason of night, and each time has its own distinct innuendo. Plants come out to chew at the edges, waves stretch their hands to catch a bird. All is fickle in plain sight, and in the undergrounds of life it may all be the same. The wound from the moon of the poor mad woman, or the poor mad woman and the wounded moon, with light in her heavy mouth heavenly with light. The flowers see for blind hope, hope blind for the sea flower. Sing for the nightingale that slaps the sky slaps the nightingale to sing. We play outside of time, and the windmill plays along. Windmill station, mill of inspiration, mill of narration, mill of determination, mill of proliferation, mill of embrocation, mill of cultivation, mill of vexation, mill of salvation, mill of incarnation, mill of fabrication, mill of ululation, mill of syncopation, mill of erication, mill of agglomeration, mill of elongation, mill of separation, mill of manipulation, mill of propagation, mill of inebriation, mill of exaltation, mill of inhumation, mill of maturation, mill of frustration, mill of damnation, detonation, revelation, obscuration, and mill of excitation, mill of infatuation, mill of enumeration, mill of fortification, mill of manifestation, mill of degradation, mill of accumulation, mill of disorientation, of crispation, of assassination, of occasion, of amputation, of divination, of lamentation, mill of the duration of the constellation, mill of the sensation, mill of the information, mill of the affirmation, mill of the conflagration, mill of multiplication, mill of rejuvenation, education, dilapidation, flagellation, elevation, defecation, illumination, intoxication, mill of exasperation, mill of affectionation, mill of penetration, mill of penetration, mill of explanation, portalation, humiliation, deplanation, sedation, agitation, deprivation, altercation, mill of the antiquation, of the acceleration, of the satiation, of the annihilation, of the expatiation, mill of the deterioration, mill of the laceration, of the envernation, of the fragmentation, of the mutilation, mill of the rotation, mill of the mutation, mill of the veneration, mill in contemplation, mill in pulsation, mill in degradation, disintegration, mill in gestation, mill in congregation, mill in obliteration, mill in degeneration, mill in fixation, mill in desolation, mill in emaciation, mill in indignation, mill in fascination, mill in transformation, mill in ruination, mill in creation, mill in devastation, mill in imagination, mill in abdication, mill in reputation, mill with intonation, mill with tribulation, mill with inclination, mill with scintillation, mill with fornication, mill with deformation, mill with aggravation, mill with irritation, mill with conglomeration, with rationalization, prostration, prolongation, anticipation, resignation, expurgation, inflammation, hallucination, jubilation, inanitation, inanimation, inaccommodation, incanonization, lubrication, vacation, exportation, levitation, flotation, refrigeration, captivation, salutation, speculation, mill for exhilaration, mill for absqualation, mill for dissimulation, mill for pulverization, mill for elation, preservation, insubordination, mill for trituration, mill for renovation, mill for migration, mill for expectation, mill for circulation, mill for prognostication, mill for discollocation, mill for dislocation, mill as decoration, mill as foundation, mill as immaculation, mill as orchestration, mill as commemoration, mill as stimulation, mill as realization, mill as proclamation, medication, observation, mill to the windward, mill to the leeward, mill to the complication, mill to the ejaculation, mill to the mastication, mill to the excavation, mill to the activation, mill to the innovation, mill to the indomination, mill to the administration, mill of my incarceration, mill of my indomination, mill of my demonstration, mill of my predestination, mill of transparent nation, pertinacious mill, pertinacious mill, pertinacious mill, audacious mill, gracious mill, voracious mill, rapacious mill, sagacious mill, contumacious mill, pugnacious mill, vivacious mill, capitious, felicious, tenacious mill, ostentatious mill, fagucious mill, sebaceous mill, carbonaceous mill, sterinaceous mill, saponaceous mill, salicious mill, alicious mill, coraceous mill, ineffectuous mill, menacious mill, vexatious mill. And so you are my windmill, chilly mill, mill of the chill of wind, the chill that weaves the morning and the nights, the spins of the mist beyond the grave, mill of ill wind and wind of the sills. The landscape fills with your madness. And wheat comes and goes from this earth to the sky, from the sky to the sea, from the wheat, the yellow waves, where the wind tramps, tickling itself with ears of grain. Listen, a spike runs through the electric current. The north wind rumples your hair. Hurrah for the mill milling, the mill winging, the mill gabbing, the mill singing. When the sky takes the storm by hand, hurrah for the mill spinning in memory, the mill that mesmerizes the carrier pigeons. Speak, speak, mill of narration. When the wind tells your ethereal tale, bleed, bleed mill of dilapidation, with your great memory stuck to the sunsets of the world, and the arms of your cross worn by hurricanes. So now we laugh and sing, for the mill has built an empire from its chosen light, and it must be known, and it must be said by someone, "Son, you were born in my right eye, and you died in my left. Don't you believe in predictions based on the zodiac or the howling wind that comes from the tombs that are under the spell of the moon? And don't know what they're saying. I tell you this because my hat is tired of wandering the world, and I have seen the millennial butterfly. Prophecy, prophecy, mill of constellations, while we dance on the chance of laughter. Now that the derrick that brings us day has flipped the night beyond the earth. Crank it up. The farandolin in the hills far side, the horizon under the hovens is boarding the moon to go around the world. Crank it up. The Faranmandale has manned the Alin with its musico and its musical, the Karen Bam, the Karen Bam Boom, the Faranduli Li, the Farandandum, the Karambanati, the Karambanasati, the Farandarandiri, the Farandosia. Laugh, and laugh before weariness comes. On its misty carriage of days, and the years and the centuries pile up in space, and things grow dark in the eye of the sky. The waterfall tresses over the night, while the night bends to rest with its moon that pillows the sky. I iris the sleepy land, the roads toward the horizon in the shade of a shipwrecking tree. And here I must dissolve myself into many things. I am a firefly, lighting the forest branches, yet, as I fly, I keep to my way of walking. And I am not only a firefly, but also the air in which I fly. The moon travels through me from side to side. 2 birds are lost in my chest. Nothing can help them. And then I'm a tree. And while I'm a tree, I keep to my firefly ways, and my sky ways, and my man's walk in melancholy walking. And now I'm a rose bush speaking rose language, and I say, "Go, rose, rosa, rosare. Go, rose, rose this day. Go, rosary, rose that rose away. Fire away in rosable rostive rostrum strom. I walk in a little volcano of the day, and I'm afraid of volcanoes, but the volcano replies, 'Run away, wheel, with its depths when I snore.' I am the rose of thunder. I clear my throat. I'm a prisoner dragging the irons I shackled. The stars I drink creak in my belly, prow to the tempest in procreative procession. I proclaim my prowess roaring, and my bronchus wheezes deep in the earth, under the earth and seas. And then I'm a bird, and I nitpick the day with twitters, and the day that hangs across my neck. And now all I can say is, silence I'm about to sing. I am the only singer in this century. All infinity is mine, mine. My lies smell of heaven. And that's it. Now I'm the sea, but I keep my volcano ways. My trees are my firefly ways, my bird and man and rosebush ways, and I talk like the sea, and I say, from the heaven's abode to the horizon, I am the winged peaks of the seizure, dancing surf leaves with my white caps, on pirouette, one after another. My azure wrinkles triples the ridges deep in the flux wood of the moon. Paratweets soar in infra circles of the wave slopes of the hurrifoon's crash boom roar, and the slate caps hurl their wave lines to the shore. There is a shipwreck that cries out for help, and I pretend I'm deaf. I watch the language erase tracks across my lap lapis. The choir buoy in his endless whale blubbering, the star waves of the hill strom, the star waves of dispume that never rest till they nibble at the edge of heaven till they reach the phantasm. While in the meantime the pirate sings, and I listen to him dressed in azurine, The sails on the sea, it shimmers in the wind, howls up by the moon. The creaky white is hoisted high, and the waves are the wings in my blue. The sea will part and release the first shipwrecked who have completed their sentences. After centuries more and centuries more, they'll walk through the earth with glassy stares. They'll climb up the mountains of prophetic remarks and turn into constellations. Then a volcano will appear in the middle of the waves, and I say, I am the king, bring me the harmonium of the nebulae, and know that islands are the crowns on my head. And waves my only treasure. I am the king sings to the queen, the spring sings to the spring, and the scene sings to the scene. The scene that seeks the eye that finds it. The sky sings in astronomical language, and light sings in its magnetic tongue. While the sea licks the feet of the queen who endlessly preens, I am the king. I say that the planet that crosses through the night couldn't recognize itself when it came out on the other side. And it was worse as it went into day. Then it couldn't even remember its name or who its parents were. Tell me, are you the son of the Fisher King, or the grandson of a stork with a stutter? Do you descend from that giraffe I saw in the middle of the desert, absorbed in grazing on the grassing of the moon? Are you the son of the hanged man with the pyramid eyes? Someday we'll know, and you'll die with no secrets. And from your tomb will come like a rainbow, a trolley. From the trolley, a little rainbow, couples making love. And from love will come the wandering forest, and from forest will come an arrow, and from the arrow will come a rabbit racing through the fields. From the rabbit will come a ribbon that will mark its way. From the ribbon will come a river and a rapid that rescues the rabbit from a hunter. And the rabbit hops up a glance and hides at the bottom of an eye. I am the king, drowned men blossom at my command. Tie the rainbow to the pirate, tie the wing to the witch's hair. I am the king, and I chart your horoscope like a plan for attack. Hearing this, the rainbow crept away. Where are you going, rainbow? Don't you know there are murderers on the roads? Rainbow chained to the standing pillar of mercury, all decked out for us. 3,200 yards of infrared, one end resting on my foot and the other in the wound of Christ. Rainbow Sundays for the archangels. Where is the archer of meteorites? The archaic archer. Under the ancient arcade, the archer of the arcanum with his violet violin and his violacious violin that violated violin. Rainbow eyebrowed arch in the archaeological sky. Hidden in the area under the arch is the ark of precious jewels, and the flower wound like a clock. The flower wound like a clock with perfect gears in its petals. Now that a horse starts to gallop up the rainbow, now that the gallants and the glance unpacks its overstuffed eyes, and sunsets flee across the fields, the sky waits for an aeroplane, and I hear the dead laughing under the earth.